Beneath the Badge. Episode 4. Author Gisele Wassa. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved. That day, Madison sat alone at their usual cafe, her fingers drumming nervously on the worn wooden table. The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, but it did little to soothe her growing unease. Her eyes darted between her watch and the cafe entrance, each passing minute amplifying her concern. Wayne's absence was uncharacteristic, and the joy she usually felt during their meetups had been replaced by a gnawing worry. Unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, Madison pulled out her phone, her trembling fingers dialing Wayne's number. The repeated rings echoed in her ear, each one unanswered, intensifying her apprehension. This wasn't like Wayne at all. He was always punctual and considerate. After several failed attempts to reach him, Madison's worry transformed into determination. She gathered her belongings, left some money on the table, and hurried out of the cafe. The cool air hit her face as she strode purposefully towards Wayne's house, her mind racing with possibilities. Arriving at Wayne's front door, Madison took a deep breath before knocking. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing Wayne. His usual vibrant demeanor was replaced by a somber expression, his eyes red-rimmed and distant. "Madison," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry I didn't show up or call. I just found out my aunt passed away." Madison's heart sank. She stepped forward, wrapping her arms around Wayne in a comforting embrace. He stiffened at first, then slowly melted into her hug, his shoulders beginning to shake. "I'm so sorry, Wayne," Madison murmured, gently rubbing his back. She could feel the tension in his body, the grief manifesting physically. Wayne pulled away, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I don't know what to do," he admitted, his voice cracking. "She was like a second mother to me. I wanted her to meet you." Madison guided him inside, closing the door behind them. Wayne moved like a man in a daze, collapsing onto the couch. She sat beside him, taking his hand in hers. "It's okay to not know what to do right now," she said softly. "I'm here for you, whatever you need." Wayne nodded, his gaze fixed on some distant point. The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken pain and shared understanding. Madison remained by his side, a steady presence in the face of his grief, ready to support him through the difficult days ahead. Madison wrapped her arms around Wayne, pulling him close as he stood there, visibly shaken. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice soft and steady. She could feel the tension in his body, the weight of his grief pressing down on him. Wayne let out a shaky breath, burying his face in her shoulder. "I didn't expect this," he murmured, his voice muffled against her. "She was always there for me." Holding him tighter, Madison gently swayed side to side, trying to offer some comfort. She could feel Wayne's heart racing beneath her cheek, a stark contrast to the stillness of the room around them. His usual composure was gone, replaced by a raw vulnerability that tugged at her heart. After a moment, Wayne pulled back slightly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. Confusion and sorrow etched across his face. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. I don't know how to process this," he said, looking down as if searching for answers in the floor. "It's okay not to know," Madison replied gently, brushing a stray tear from his cheek with her thumb. "You don't have to have all the answers right now." Wayne nodded slowly but remained distant, lost in thought. He shifted uncomfortably on the couch, glancing around the room as if seeing it for the first time. Madison sensed the turmoil within him, a storm of emotions battling for space. "She always believed in me," he finally said, his voice cracking. "I wish I could have told her how much she meant to me." Madison squeezed his hand reassuringly. "You can honor her memory by sharing those feelings now. Talk about her, remember the good times." As Wayne took a deep breath, Madison watched him wrestle with his grief, knowing that healing would take time. She stayed close, ready to listen and support him through this difficult journey, hoping they could navigate through the darkness together toward some semblance of light. Chapter 6. The Funerals. The doorbell chimed, startling Wayne from his somber reverie. He opened the door to find Madison standing there, dressed in a modest black dress, her hair neatly pulled back. Her presence caught him off guard. "Madison?" I thought we agreed you didn't have to come, Wayne said, his brow furrowing in confusion. Madison stepped inside, her eyes filled with determination. I know what you said, Wayne, but I'm here for you. I won't let you face this alone. Wayne's shoulders slumped slightly, a mix of gratitude and concern crossing his face. I appreciate that, but meeting my family like this, it might be uncomfortable for you. Wayne, Madison said firmly, placing a hand on his arm, I care about you and your family. It's important to support each other during times like this. I'm going with you, and that's final. He hesitated, glancing away as if weighing his options. But, no buts, she interrupted gently but firmly. We'll get through this together. After a moment of silence, Wayne sighed, his resistance melting away. Okay, he finally said, though uncertainty lingered in his eyes. If you're sure. Madison nodded, her heart swelling with empathy for him. They stepped outside into the cool air, the scent of impending rain hanging around them as they made their way to the car. The drive was quiet, filled with unspoken thoughts and emotions swirling between them. As they arrived at the funeral home, Madison could see Wayne's anxiety manifest in his clenched fists and furrowed brow. She parked the car and turned to him, her gaze steady and reassuring. Remember, I'm right here with you, she said softly. Wayne took a deep breath, nodding as they stepped out of the car together. The somber atmosphere enveloped them as they walked toward the entrance. Madison could feel the weight of grief in the air, but she also felt a sense of purpose. She was there to support Wayne in his time of need. The somber atmosphere enveloped them as Wayne and Madison approached the funeral home. A light drizzle fell from the overcast sky, as if nature itself was mourning. The soft patter of raindrops on umbrellas provided a melancholic backdrop to the quiet murmurs of arriving guests. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of lilies and roses. Soft, mournful music played in the background as people moved about in hushed tones. Wayne's eyes scanned the room, finally settling on his parents near the front. His mother, a petite woman with graying hair and red-rimmed eyes, stood beside his father, a tall man with broad shoulders now slightly hunched with grief. As Wayne approached, his mother's face crumpled, and she rushed forward to embrace him. "Oh, Wayne," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Wayne wrapped his arms around her, closing his eyes as he felt his father's strong hand on his shoulder. "Son," his father said softly, his usual booming voice subdued. "We're glad you're here." As they pulled apart, Wayne turned slightly, gesturing to Madison who stood nearby, her presence a quiet pillar of support. "Mom, Dad," Wayne said, his voice a little unsteady. "This is Madison. She's been an incredible support." Madison stepped forward, her eyes warm with sympathy. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry for your loss. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." To Wayne's surprise, his mother reached out and clasped Madison's hands in her own. "Thank you for being here for our Wayne," she said, her voice wavering slightly. "It means more than you know." Wayne's father nodded, offering a sad smile. "Yes, thank you, Madison. It's good to know Wayne has someone looking out for him." As they spoke, more family members began to gather around, aunts and uncles offering hugs and condolences. The funeral director discreetly approached, signaling that it was time for the service to begin. Wayne felt Madison's reassuring touch on his arm as they moved towards the seating area. The coffin, adorned with a spray of white lilies, stood at the front of the room. As they settled into their seats, Wayne took a deep breath, grateful for Madison's steady presence beside him as he prepared to say goodbye to his beloved aunt. As the ceremony concluded, Wayne stood abruptly, his face a mask of barely contained emotion. Madison could see the tension in his shoulders as he turned to her, his voice low and strained. "I can't stay here. I need to go home." Before they could make their exit, Wayne's mother approached, her eyes red-rimmed but her expression gentle. She placed a hand on Wayne's arm, causing him to stiffen slightly. "Wayne, dear," she began, her voice soft and tinged with sadness, "I know your relationship with your aunt wasn't always easy, but she loved you very much. I'm so glad you could be here today." Wayne nodded curtly, unable to meet his mother's gaze. "Thanks, Mom," he mumbled, then turned to Madison. "Can we go now?" Madison nodded, fishing the car keys from her purse. "Of course," she replied, offering a sympathetic smile to Wayne's mother, before guiding him towards the parking lot. The drive back to Wayne's house was heavy with silence. Madison gripped the steering wheel, stealing occasional glances at Wayne. He sat rigid in the passenger seat, his gaze fixed on the passing scenery, lost in thought. The silence felt oppressive, and Madison longed to reach out, to offer some words of comfort. But she knew Wayne well enough to recognize when he needed space. She could see the pain etched in the lines of his face, the way his jaw clenched and unclenched rhythmically. As they drove, the weight of unspoken words hung between them. Madison's heart ached for Wayne, wanting desperately to ease his suffering, but understanding that sometimes the most supportive thing she could do was simply be present. The familiar streets of Wayne's neighborhood came into view, and Madison felt a small measure of relief. Soon, they would be home, where Wayne could process his emotions in private. She hoped that in time he would open up to her, but for now, she would respect his need for silence and offer her quiet support. As they entered Wayne's house, the silence that had enveloped them in the car persisted. Wayne moved mechanically, his eyes distant and unfocused. Madison watched him, her heart aching to comfort him, but unsure how to breach the wall of grief he had built around himself. "Wayne," she said softly, "I'm here if you need anything." He nodded, barely acknowledging her words. Madison hesitated, then made a decision. "I think you need some time alone. I'll go, but please call me if you need anything, okay?" Wayne didn't respond, just sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. Madison left, her worry for him growing with each step. At home, Madison couldn't shake her concern for Wayne. After a moment's deliberation, she called her company, explaining the situation, and took some time off. She then contacted Dakota, asking her to take charge at work. Returning to Wayne's house, Madison found him in the same position she'd left him. This time, she sat beside him, her presence a silent offer of support. Hours passed before Wayne finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "My aunt, she didn't want me to join the force." Wayne sighed, running a hand through his hair as he began to explain. "My Aunt Sarah was my mother's sister. She was always protective of me, especially after my Uncle Jack was killed in the line of duty. He was a cop, and during a routine traffic stop, he was shot and killed. It happened years before I was born, but the pain of losing him left a deep scar on her heart. When I told her I wanted to join the police force, she was devastated. She begged me not to follow in his footsteps, terrified that I'd face the same fate. We argued about it for months. She had a fight with my dad, with my mom, with me, but I was stubborn, determined to make a difference like Uncle Jack did. That decision caused a rift between us that we never fully mended. Now that she's gone, I can't help but wonder if I made the right choice." Madison listened as Wayne explained the root of the tension between him and his aunt, her fear of losing him as she had lost her husband to a gunshot in the line of duty. "I understand now," Wayne said, his eyes meeting Madison's for the first time since the funeral. "She was just scared of losing me too." Madison nodded, reaching out to take his hand. "She loved you, Wayne. That fear came from a place of love. And you are the best cop I know. You made the right decision to follow your heart." As the night deepened, their conversation continued, drawing them closer. The shared vulnerability led to a moment of connection, and they found themselves in each other's arms, seeking comfort and expressing unspoken feelings. The next morning, Madison woke with a start, momentarily disoriented. As the events of the night before came rushing back, she felt a pang of guilt. Wayne, sensing her unease, immediately apologized. "Madison, I'm so sorry if I rushed you. You told me you were not ready." She cut him off, shaking her head. "No, Wayne. It's not your fault. It's no one's fault. I've had these feelings for a while. I just couldn't hold them back any longer." They gazed at each other, a mix of emotions playing across their faces, grief, comfort, and a newfound intimacy that both excited and scared them. As they navigated this new territory in their relationship, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. Wayne sat on the edge of the bed, his eyes reflecting a mix of vulnerability and warmth as he turned to Madison. "You know," he began, his voice soft but steady, "last night was the most beautiful night I've ever experienced with anyone." He paused, searching her gaze for understanding. "I felt a connection with you that I've never felt before. It's like you were able to see right through my pain and still chose to be here with me." You didn't shy away from my grief. Instead, you embraced it with me. He took a deep breath, his expression earnest. I've always struggled to open up to people, but with you, it feels different. You have this way of making me feel understood. I can't thank you enough for being there for me, for listening and just being you. You're not just my support, you're everything. Wayne reached out, gently taking her hand in his thumb brushing over her knuckles. I don't know what the future holds, but I want you to be a part of it. You mean more to me than I can express. His sincerity hung in the air between them, a promise of deeper intimacy and connection as they navigated this new chapter together. They hugged tightly. With Madison's unwavering support, Wayne gradually began to reclaim his usual demeanor over the following weeks. The initial heaviness that had settled in his heart started to lift as he found comfort in their shared moments. He began smiling again, the corners of his mouth lifting with genuine warmth when Madison was around. They spent evenings together, talking about everything and nothing, sharing laughter that echoed through the house like music. Wayne found solace in the small things, cooking dinner together, watching movies, or simply sitting on the porch while the sun set. Each day brought a little more light back into his life, and he could feel the shadows of grief receding. Madison's presence became a balm for his wounds, reminding him that it was okay to feel joy again amidst the sorrow. One afternoon, while they were out for a walk, Wayne turned to Madison with a smile that reached his eyes. You know, he said, I never thought I could feel this way again so soon after losing Aunt Sarah. But you've helped me realize that it's okay to live and to smile. Madison beamed back at him, her heart swelling with affection. She had seen the transformation in him, the way he carried himself with renewed confidence, and how laughter came more easily now. Together, they were building a new chapter, one filled with hope and healing. Chapter 7. Meet the Mom. Wayne felt a nervous flutter in his stomach as he and Madison approached the quaint, well-maintained house. Despite its modest size, the property exuded charm and warmth. Remember, Madison whispered, squeezing his hand, not a word about us, well, you know. Mom's very traditional. Wayne nodded, understanding the gravity of keeping their intimate relationship under wraps. Got it. I'll be on my best behavior. The door opened, revealing Annabelle, an elegant black woman in her 60s, dressed in a simple yet stylish floral dress. Her eyes, sharp and discerning, immediately sized up Wayne. So you're the young man my Madison's been seeing, Annabelle said, her tone a mix of curiosity and caution. Yes, ma'am, Wayne replied, extending his hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Wiley. Annabelle's handshake was firm. Come in, both of you. I've just made some fresh lemonade. As they settled in the cozy living room, adorned with family photos and well-loved furniture, Annabelle began her subtle interrogation. What are your intentions with my daughter, Wayne? She asked directly, her gaze unwavering. Wayne, caught off guard, stammered slightly. I care deeply for Madison, Mrs. Johnson. She's an incredible woman, and I'm committed to supporting her dreams and aspirations. Annabelle nodded, seemingly satisfied with his response. As the conversation progressed, touching on Wayne's career, family, and values, her initial frostiness began to thaw. You know, Annabelle said, a small smile playing on her lips, I've always believed in the simple pleasures of life. A good book, a warm cup of tea, and loved ones nearby, that's true wealth. Wayne found himself relaxing, drawn in by Annabelle's wisdom and the genuine love she clearly had for her daughter. By the end of the visit, he had even managed to make her laugh with a few well-timed jokes. As they were leaving, Annabelle pulled Madison aside. He seems like a good man, honey. Just remember, there's no rush. Marriage and stability are important, but so is finding the right person. Madison hugged her mother, relief evident in her voice. Thanks, Mom. I'm glad you like him. As they walked back to the car, Wayne let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. I survived, he said, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Madison burst into laughter, the sound brightening the heavy atmosphere that had lingered since their meeting with Annabelle. You did. I'm so proud of you, she replied, her eyes sparkling with amusement. I was worried you might turn into a statue in there. Wayne chuckled, shaking his head. I thought I might. Your mom is intimidating. She's just protective, Madison said, her tone softening. but you handled it like a champ. Thank you for being so brave. Wayne smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him at her praise. I guess I just wanted to impress her, and you. As they reached the car, Madison felt a surge of affection for Wayne. His courage in facing her mother had solidified something deeper between them, and she couldn't help but feel grateful for the connection they were building. A few days later, Madison drove along a familiar road, her thoughts drifting until flashing lights in her rearview mirror jolted her back to reality. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized she was being pulled over by a police officer. Quickly, she pulled over to the side of the road, confusion and concern etched on her face. "Oh, come on, not now," she muttered under her breath as she rolled down her window. As the officer approached her car, Madison's worry deepened. "Officer, I'm sure there's been a mistake. Is there a problem?" "License and registration, please," Wayne said, his voice steady but his expression unreadable. Madison's eyes widened in recognition. "Wayne? Wayne, it's you. License and registration, please, ma'am," he repeated, maintaining his professional demeanor. "Wayne? Are you serious right now?" Her confusion turned to frustration as she struggled to understand what was happening. "License and registration," he said again, his tone firm and his gaze fixed on the ground. "Wayne, this isn't funny," Madison exclaimed, reaching for her purse. She fumbled through it and handed over her documents, her mind racing with a mixture of anxiety and disbelief. Wayne took the documents without a word and examined them carefully. "Stay in your vehicle, ma'am," he instructed. Madison felt exasperation bubbling inside her. "Wayne, why are you acting like this? What's going on?" "Just wait in your vehicle," he replied coolly. "I'll be right back." He walked away without looking back, leaving Madison bewildered and slightly annoyed. "This is ridiculous," she muttered to herself. "I can't believe he's doing this." Determined to confront him, she stepped out of the car and called after him. After a tense few minutes, Wayne returned to Madison's car, still maintaining his stern demeanor. "What's going on?" Madison demanded, frustration spilling over. "You're really going to keep this up?" "I'm getting frustrated. I wasn't even going that fast. Maybe 5 miles above the speed limit. You can't stop anyone for that. And why are you acting like a jerk? You act like you don't even know me. This isn't funny at all." Wayne inspected the documents for a moment before handing Madison a ticket with a serious expression. "You were going a bit over the speed limit, ma'am. This is your ticket." Madison's eyebrows furrowed as she took the ticket, still trying to process the situation. But as she glanced down at the piece of paper, her confusion gave way to astonishment. Written in Wayne's distinctive handwriting were the words, "Will you marry me?" Her heart raced as she looked up to find Wayne on one knee beside her car. His uniform had transformed from an authoritative presence into a symbol of the man she loved, and the realization hit her like a wave of emotion. Tears welled up in Madison's eyes as the enormity of the moment sank in. Wayne's sincere gaze met hers, and she found herself unable to speak. Her heart overflowed with joy. With a gentle smile, Wayne held out a small box that revealed a stunning ring glinting in the sunlight. "Madison Wiley," he said softly, "you are more than I could ever imagine or hope for. I cannot imagine spending the rest of my life loving anyone else. Will you make me the happiest man on earth and marry me?" Madison's voice trembled as she tried to form words amidst her tears. "Yes, Wayne. Yes." The floodgates opened as tears of joy streamed down Madison's cheeks, mingling with Wayne's own heartfelt emotions. He stood up with an infectious grin and pulled her into a warm embrace. Unable to resist teasing her, Wayne whispered in her ear, "You really thought I didn't recognize you?" Madison laughed through her tears as she clung tightly to him. "I don't know. I don't even know what I thought." In that moment, with the road stretching ahead of them, Wayne and Madison were bound by a commitment that promised a future filled with shared dreams, unconditional love, and partnership. As the wedding gets closer, Madison sat in her room, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Wayne's proposal had been a beautiful surprise, and she had said yes without a second thought. But now, as the reality of it sank in, she found herself wrestling with doubts. Was it too fast? Were they truly ready for this step? Lost in her thoughts, she picked up her phone and dialed her mother's number. After a few rings, Annabelle's warm voice greeted her on the other end. "Hey, sweetheart. How's everything? Hi, Mom. Madison began, her voice tinged with a touch of hesitation. I wanted to talk to you about something. Annabelle sensed her daughter's unease. Of course, dear. You know you can always talk to me. What's on your mind? Madison took a deep breath. It's about Wayne and me. He proposed, and I said yes, but now I'm starting to have these doubts. Is it too fast? Are we ready? Annabelle's voice held a comforting tone. Madison, my love, doubts are normal in any big decision. But let me remind you, you're not getting any younger. It's time to settle down, start a family. And you've found someone who loves you deeply, who wants to build a life with you. You're lucky, sweetheart. Madison sighed, feeling torn. I know, Mom, but I don't want to rush into something and then regret it later. Annabelle's voice grew firmer. Honey, you can't keep hesitating. Life doesn't wait. You have a good man by your side, someone who cares for you and wants to be with you. Don't let fear hold you back. You've always been strong, determined. Trust your instincts and your heart. Madison's eyes welled up with tears. Her mother's words struck a chord deep within her. I guess I just needed to hear that. Annabelle's tone softened. I understand your worries, dear, but you've always been one to think things through. And remember, there's no such thing as perfect timing. Life will always throw challenges our way. It's how we face them that matters. Madison wiped away a tear, a mix of emotions swirling within her. You're right, Mom. Thank you for being honest with me. Annabelle's voice became gentle. You're welcome, sweetheart. Just remember, you deserve happiness. And I believe Wayne can bring that into your life. Madison took a shaky breath. I love you, Mom. Annabelle's love was evident in her words. I love you too, Madison. Everything will work out just great. After the call ended, Madison sat in contemplation. Her mother's words had been both reassuring and challenging. She realized that it was okay to have doubts, but she couldn't let them overshadow the love she had found. Wayne had shown her his unwavering support and commitment. She needed to take the leap, embrace the future, and have faith in their journey together. Chapter 8. Darkness in Paradise. Amidst the joy and celebration in Madison and Wayne's world, a dark cloud descended upon the police force, a scandal that rocked their community to its core yet again. The news spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the city and igniting a wave of outrage and protest. It was revealed that one of the policemen, Bradley Connolly, Wayne's best friend, had yet again fatally shot a black young man, sparking a wave of public anger and unrest. The incident highlighted the ongoing tension between law enforcement and marginalized communities, triggering passionate demonstrations and calls for justice. Wayne's commitment to his values and his love for Madison collided, leaving him torn between his duty as a policeman and his role as a loving partner. Madison, sensing his inner turmoil, offered her unwavering support, standing by his side as he grappled with the turmoil within his own profession. In the midst of turmoil and pain, Madison and Wayne's love remained a constant source of strength, reminding them of the power of unity, empathy, and the determination to make a positive impact on the world around them. In the heart of the police headquarters, a hushed anticipation filled the conference room as officers and officials gathered, waiting for their chief to address the pressing matter at hand. The room was adorned with an air of formality, the atmosphere tinged with both tension and curiosity. The large wooden table dominated the center of the room, flanked by rows of chairs. Amid the subtle hum of conversations, the entrance of Chief Anderson commanded attention. Dressed in his crisply pressed uniform, his presence exuded authority and a sense of responsibility. He stepped up to the podium, adjusting the microphone to his height. The room fell into a silence that spoke volumes about the gravity of the situation. Chief Anderson cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping across the room before he began to speak, his words carrying the weight of the entire police force. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, members of the press, and concerned citizens, he began, his voice steady and measured, we find ourselves at a pivotal juncture, facing challenges that have shaken the foundations of trust and security within our community. Chief Anderson was a tall man with a robust build, exuding authority and confidence. His hair was graying at the temples, neatly combed back, and his sharp blue eyes conveyed both determination and compassion. He had a strong jawline, often set in a serious expression, but his smile could easily soften his demeanor when interacting with the community. Clad in a crisp, dark blue uniform adorned with polished insignia and a gleaming badge, he carried himself with the poise of a seasoned leader, embodying the professionalism expected of his rank. Known as a tough leader, Chief Anderson demanded excellence from his officers while earning their respect for his integrity and commitment to the department's mission. As the public face of the police force, he skillfully navigated complex political situations and advocated for the resources his department needed to effectively serve the community. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to address the tragic incident that occurred, involving the fatal shooting of a young man named Jamal Harris by Officer Bradley Colony. This event has deeply affected our community, and I want to express my heartfelt condolences to Jamal's family and friends during this incredibly difficult time. We understand that incidents like this can lead to pain, anger, and confusion within our community. It is our duty to ensure transparency and accountability as we investigate this matter thoroughly. We are committed to providing the public with updates as we gather more information. I want to emphasize that our department values the trust and safety of our community above all else. We are actively working to engage with community leaders and organizations to facilitate open dialogue about this incident and broader issues related to policing in our city. Now, I will take a few questions. First, journalist, what specific steps is the department taking to investigate this incident? We have launched an internal investigation, and we are also cooperating with external agencies to ensure an impartial review. We want to get to the bottom of what happened and ensure accountability. Second, journalist, Chief, how will you address community concerns about police use of force? We recognize that there are significant concerns regarding police use of force in our community. We will be hosting community forums where residents can voice their concerns and suggestions. Additionally, we are reviewing our training programs to ensure our officers are equipped with the skills necessary for de-escalation. Third, journalist, can you tell us more about Officer Bradley Colony's history with the department? Officer Colony has been with our department for several years and has undergone extensive training in crisis intervention. However, every officer is held accountable for their actions, and this incident will be reviewed in detail. Journalist 4, what role will community leaders play in this process? Community leaders will be instrumental in fostering dialogue between the police department and residents. One exemplary officer, Wayne Sanford, has been actively involved in community outreach initiatives and is set to marry Madison Wiley, a woman actively participating in initiatives that uplifted local voices, soon. And he is not the only one in our department. This personal commitment reflects this department's dedication to strengthening ties within the community, which is essential for rebuilding trust. Thank you for your questions. We are committed to transparency throughout this process and will keep you updated as we move forward together as a community. Next chapters. Next secrets. To be continued. Thanks for listening. And do not forget to like the video and to subscribe to Harmony in Words for more stories and episodes.